3 ways to create an endless follow-up automation. So if you're like me, you probably don't like constantly having to follow up with leads, follow up with unpaid invoices, things of that nature. And so in this video, I'm gonna walk you through 3 ways that you can create an endless follow-up system. And really this could be for anything. Again, in this video, I'm gonna walk through sending an invoice, an outstanding invoice, but you could do this when a new lead comes in. You could do this when somebody books an appointment. You could do this, with really at any point. But I'm going to show you how to create, or 3 ways to create an endless follow-up system for outstanding invoices. All right, so let me find my eCam. By the way, if you don't know who I am, my name's Michael Kittinger, creator of the Business Automation Academy, businessautomationacademy.com. It's a free group where I share helpful tips, tricks, things like that for you to automate your business. Also the owner of Scale Automatically. All right, so let me share my screen and we will dive in. Like always, I am using Fractal CRM, fractal-crm.com, an all-in-one platform that I highly recommend. It runs our entire business, our multiple businesses, and yeah, we recommend it for all clients. So fractal-crm.com if you want to check it out. All right, so I'm going to come here to invoicing, and we're going to do the invoice sent, and then I'll show you invoice paid to stop the automation. So this is kind of a standard invoice send, right? You send the invoice, maybe you add a note, follow up 3 days beforehand, send a reminder, right? Your invoice is due, wait 3 days till it's after due, 14 days, etc. Okay. What I'm going to do, so this is kind of a standard one. Now, the downside is it ends, right? And so after that time period, like you have to remember to follow up or have somebody follow up. And so I'm going to create a brand new workflow, and we are just going to name this invoice endless follow up. And so we'll say invoice sent, and then we'll do wait. Oh, what just happened there? Wait exact time. So this will be wait until it's due. Actually, you know what we'll do? We will do, so you would still have like the beforehand, sent you the invoice, etc. We're going to do this. We're going to say, no, actually, that's fine. Now, there's a couple different ways, and there's pros and cons to each of the ways. The first thing that you could do is we could use a split. And so a split is basically just going to be a series of paths that it randomly goes down, okay? So it's like rolling a dice is how it's described. And so let's do this, and we'll say 25%, 25%, 25%, and 25%. Save. Okay, so one idea is that we could come down here, and so now it has 4 different paths, and we could do so I'm going to do like a wait. We'll say wait 2 days. And then I can send a SMS. Your invoice is past due. Please take care of it at your earliest convenience. And then we can drop the link to the invoice URL so they can pay it. And so we could do something like this. So then we could, for instance, we could copy it. We could move it here. We could say this is like, we'll say wait 4 days. Can adjust the message a little bit. We'll just do, please take care of your invoice at your earliest convenience. Please take care of invoice at your earliest convenience. We could come here and we could say this is, I'm just giving you an example, obviously. We could say this is 7 days. Or actually, we'll do 5 days. And then we'll copy it one more time. And we'll make this one 3 days. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. So invoice is due. It's going to wait until it's time of due. Then it's going to split. Then it's going to wait. So all of these are past due. Now, we could further expand it by almost doing the same thing. Like we could have a split here. And we could have different paths. And then, so you could get, you could have, obviously, like, if we did 4 paths under A, 4 under, then we'd have quite a few different variables, different options. But then what we can do is we can do a go to. And so we're going to come up here. And so essentially what this is doing right here, as you can see, it's an endless loop, right? And it's going to randomize, more or less, like it's going to randomize which path they go down. And so sometimes it'll be every 2 days, sometimes, it'll be every 5 days, etc. Especially if you do another split here with 2 or 3 options, you can have this be where it's really just like a randomized number of days that it sends. So pros and cons here. The pro is that it's easy to set up. You don't need any third-party software, Zapier, ChatGPT, anything like that. And so it is easy to set up, especially in like Fractal CRM, right? And so now it's just going to flip, update the messages. So pro, obviously, very quick, easy to set up. The con, so one of the downsides is that every time it does go down a specific path, and again, like we could have added another split here with, say, 2 more options, right? And so then we could have put like another, we'll just do here. Actually, we'll do this. So now we have just like, we'll do wait 3 days. And then we can send like another SMS. Okay, so now we've just exponentially, right, increased the number of variations. And I'm just going to copy. Again, this is just for kind of visual representation or visual sake. But we could have paths, right, with different days, sends a message. Under each path, we could have more paths. So it's now splitting again into multiple days. So let's say we make this one 5 days. Right, and then we can adjust the messaging, etc. So easy to do. Definitely have a ton of variations. Right, again, especially if you use the paths. But one of the downsides is if it splits and it comes down A, they'll always get this same message. If it splits again and it comes down path B, they'll always get this same message. So even though there are, a huge number of variations, the messages themselves are static. They're going to be the same, right? Because you have hard-coded this into when it hits this point, send this message, all right? Now, the second thing that we can do is create another quick workflow here just to show you. And so invoice paid, stop, endless follow-up. Just so, obviously, once they do pay the invoice, invoice paid, we are just going to remove from workflow, and we are going to remove it from, now I don't remember what, endless follow-up. Okay, so now once it's paid, it will kick them out of the other workflow. Okay, so invoice, endless follow-up, this is variation 1 or possible setup 1. Again, easy to set up. Very quickly, you can have just a huge number of variations, but the messages are static. So that is definitely one downside to it. All right, next up, let us do something slightly different. Let's just delete these. Okay, so we're back to this. Waits, still splitting into variation of days, But in this step, instead of manually coding the message, what we can do is we are going to hop over to Zapier. We're going to create a Zap. We're going to set up a webhook. We're going to catch it. Continue. Continue. Copy the webhook. Pop it in over here. Okay. Save. So what we're going to do is we are going to set up a webhook, and it's the same webhook for all these. So what's the webhook going to do? In this case, what we're going to do is we are going to go to OpenAI. We are going to send prompt. So you can see down here. So sends a prompt to OpenAI and generates a completion, basically generates a response. So I use ChatGPT if there's like the contact responded, because with ChatGPT, it's going to ask you for user response. So in other words, what is ChatGPT responding to? With OpenAI as the step, it's not required to have a user response. What you can do is you can have a prompt, okay? And so we're going to use there our prompt, and there's a couple different ways we can do this. We could put in here where, contact is past due on their invoice. Create an SMS message to send them. The longer the conversation, the more stern you should be. The more stern the response should be. So we could do something like this and hard code it. All right, we'll drop this temperature down. I usually do like 0.15, 0.2. So real quick, the temperature, the higher the temperature, the more leeway, the more variation, the more flexibility, if you will, that you're giving the bot, the wider range of responses that the bot can produce. The smaller the temperature, you're saying, hey, I want you to really stay on point, and you're going to have less variation, if you will, in the responses. Since this is a very specific follow-up, I want them to follow up to create a message based off an outstanding invoice. I'm going to do that. I'm going to set the max length to something like 250 characters, so it's short, it's a text, etc. Don't mess with any of that stuff. And you could hit continue, okay? So we'll do that. Then it's going to produce a response. So you can see here, hello, contact. This is a friendly reminder that your invoice is now past due. Please make payment as soon as possible to avoid any further late fees. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Sounds pretty good. So now what we can do is we will come back here. Apparently I cannot spell. There we go. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to come back here and we are going to update the contact. Okay, so choose account. We'll do here. Continue. So a couple things here. One, we hard-coded the prompt here, okay? That is certainly one way that you can do it. The other thing that we can do is we can come here and we could always add. And so we could say prompt here and we could type it in. So basically we could take this and we could put it in here. Oh, and now the webhook's going to pick up this prompt, this custom data. And then all we would need to do is replace this with the prompt field it found with the webhook. Okay, so that's something that we could do. We could update the prompt here. And this is where you get into like so much flexibility. We could also create a field. This may be even cooler. So if we could create a field, and it's going to be a number, days invoice past due. Check this out. If you can't tell, I totally geek out over this. Then, so what we could do here is we're going to come up here first, update contact field. And man, oh man, I cannot type today. I still can't type. Days invoice past due. So up here, we're going to reset it to 0. So every time it's a new invoice, it's going to reset that to 0. Now, what we could do is say, oh, that's not what I meant. Update contact. No, we're going to do math. And we are going to say days invoice past due. So we're going to take the number of days invoice past due. Since this is wait 2 days, we're going to say wait, add 2. And then we're just going to update days invoice past due. So now, in here, if we wanted to use the prompt, so check this out. This is going to be so cool. You guys are going to love this. So now what we can do is we can say contact is, and we can come in here and we can scroll down to custom field and we can put in days invoice past due. So now what we're going to send to OpenAI to respond to the bot to create, or the chat GPT to create a response, is it's now going to know how many days past due the invoice is. So it's 10 days past due on their invoice. Create an SMS message to send them. The longer the invoice is outstanding, the more stern the response should be. Save. So now, not only, and we'll update this to 4. So now we're keeping a running total of the number of days it's due, and we've made the response, the text response that we're going to send them, we've made it dynamic because it's not hard-coded in. It's now going to pull from OpenAI. So OpenAI is going to pull a response. We'll save this. And so then the next thing we need, okay, so we have this set up. Now we have multiple days. Oh, we'll need a go to. So now it makes it an infinite loop until they pay. Oh, that's not what I meant. Go to. So this is the second way that you can do it. So the first way was hard coding it all. The second way is having something like this. So pros and cons. Obviously the pro is the responses are now dynamic. So depending on, number of days, like no person will get the exact same response. The response should not be the exact same. Okay, because we're sending it over here. And so basically, if I were to actually fire off this webhook, you would select the the step from the webhook, and essentially it would be the webhook prompt is what we'd be selecting. So we got temperature, we've got that, we've got all that. So here we could also, if we wanted to use like GPT, I haven't set up GPT-4 yet. So you could use one of the GPT models. You could create your own model, which I'll do a whole nother video on that, but you could create your own basically chat GPT model that's specifically for your business. But yeah, so now it does boom, boom, boom. Okay. So now the next step that we need, create a workflow. By the way, if you're finding this useful, let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to join Business Automation Academy. So now we're going to say AI, we'll just put AI response. And the trigger, let me hop back over here. So here we'll pull in the email. So the email, the name, all that stuff will pull in from the webhook. AI bot response. So here, what we will do, I need to retest it. Oh, it's not going to produce because of the, it's going to confuse. Because I updated the prompt and I just put in that. So let me actually, just so you can kind of see this, let me just pull the prompt over here. But I'm going to go back to just the generic one. So is, again, I would do the webhook, pull it in, pull in the number of days. But we'll do this just so you can see. Please make payment. And so we'll continue. We'll have the email and everything, but now what we can do is we can come down here, AI bot response. That's the prompt. Here we go. And so we can, again, we could push in the contact first name. So over here under this prompt, use contact first name when addressing the person. So now it'll use that. So here the response really, instead of hide this, it'll be their actual name. Okay. And so what we're doing is we're now taking the bot response as that step. So it's going to update over here. Okay. So now we need AI response. And so what we're going to do is we are going to say contact change. And we're going to put AI bot response has changed. Okay. So the zap has fired. OpenAI has produced a new response. So we're going to put AI bot has changed. Now, I am going to set this if just so you can see, workflow contact is active in endless follow-up. So basically, now this probably doesn't matter, because if it changed, we're going to want to send the text over to the contact anyways. But this way, it's only if, like, I could have a totally separate route if the AI responds, if they're part of a different workflow, right? And so here, what we're just going to do is we're going to say send SMS. And right here, we're going to say AI bot response. Okay, so it's going to take what OpenAI produced, and it's going to pop it in right here, and it's going to send them that message. And then we just need to make sure we have this on to allow reentry, and I'm going to mark as read. All right, so now we've got the bot going through at those different variables. It's going to fire off the webhook, which is going to shoot over here, pull in the contact information, pull in the prompt, all of that. It's going to send it to OpenAI, which is then going to produce a response. The response is then going to come into here, which we are then going to update this contact field, AI bot response, which once that is updated, it's then going to fire off this automation, AI response, and it's going to shoot it over to them via text. So there you go. So that's way 2. The third way is quite similar to that, but I'll give you a little more context here. So we just have the hard-coded. We have the second way, which is using Zapier and dynamic. So the messages are dynamic, so they won't be the same. We could even put in there, like, you know, don't respond the same way twice, something like that. And so it always keep coming up with new responses, etc. So the third way is we can use, so instead of just sending it to Zapier, which is we're sending the webhook, we're getting it, we're coming back in. What we could do, though, is we could use something like ZappyChat. So ZappyChat is actually what I use for my business. It's what is connected into Fractal CRM. And so ZappyChat allows you to have like two-way conversations, qualification bot, non-booking bot, booking bot. So that's all, that's what ZappyChat does. And so what we could do here, though, is we could use the ZappyChat webhook, and then their prompts are a little different. So what they need is OpenAI key. Again, kind of similar. It's all using, basically it's all using OpenAI as the back end. And so I could plug in my OpenAI value. Then the next thing we need is location key, which is comes out of Fractal CRM. So we're going to put that in there. The next thing is the prompt. And so this is where, again, I could put in contact has contacts invoice is. And again, we could always use, I don't remember what I named it. Oh, days past. That's what it was. Days. Invoice past due. And so we're updating the prompt. And then we can update the what's called CFID, and it's basically the ID for this custom field. Oh. And so and then we could, I think it's contact ID, is basically how it tracks conversation. So it has the whole conversation history. And so we could do this. So instead of using Zapier, right? So now we don't have to pay for Zapier. We don't need that. We're now using ZappyChat as the bot, okay? So you may be saying, well, what are the pros and cons of this? Well, if you're already using a bot, third-party software, etc., we use ZappyChat. It's hooked into Fractal CRM automatically or already. Now, you wouldn't have to pay for Zapier. So that's if you're not already paying for it, like that's a savings there. You wouldn't have to pay. The other cool thing with it this way is, remember, with Zapier, it was basically I'm going to say it's one directional, right? So like we're sending messages to the contact. But if they respond, yeah, we could hard code like a thanks for taking care of your invoice kind of thing. But if we use ZappyChat, then it now has the context of what the contact is responding to. So the contact pays their invoice or responds, done, completed, just paid, something like that. The bot could now respond in a dynamic message. Hey, thanks for taking care of the invoice. Something like that. So we could give it a prompt. So again, the Zapier way is one direction. It's still making the messages dynamic, but obviously if they respond, then either you have to be notified or things like that. Setting up this way is so this is basically how ZappyChat, the follow-up works. So it's using very similar to if you use the ChatGPT step, but this allows you to not have to have a message that it responds to, right? Because the contact at this point hasn't responded. So if you use ChatGPT step in Zapier, it's required to have a user response. So what was the message that came inbound that the bot is responding to? But by using the follow-up webhook, again, we use ZappyChat, highly recommend it. There doesn't need to be an inbound message. And so we could do that. And now what we could do is basically we could remove these and replace it with this one. And so there you have it. You've got hard-coded messages. You could do paths and things and then just loop it back in. So you have an infinite follow-up system there. downside being the messages are hard coded. So when they do hit a certain point, those messages will always be the same at that step. You could do it with Zapier. The pro there is you can make the messages dynamic by sending a prompt to the OpenAI, and OpenAI generates a response. It comes back into, updates that contact field, and shoots over the SMS to the contact. So that is an option. Or we could do it this way and use something like ZappyChat's follow-up webhook, which then we wouldn't need Zapier, and it now gives context so that if the contact replies when they pay, or even just when they pay the invoice. So what we could do here, I'm just going to go ahead and save it. Invoice paid. So right now we just have removed from workflow. What we could do though is like we just did a second ago. So now we're going to use ZappyChat webhook. I'm not going to go through all the stuff, but OpenAI key, we're just going to put your number. Then you have location key. Again, that's going to be a series of like letters and numbers. But now what we can do here under prompt is we could say contact has just paid their invoice. Create a SMS message. Just put a space there. Thanking them for taking care of that. Something like that. So now, when they pay it, they will get a automated dynamic response from ChatGPT, basically, from ZappyChat. Thanks for paying your invoice. Your invoice has been taken care of. I don't know. It'll figure out what that message should be. But now, too, every time they pay it, it's also going to be a slightly different response. So if they are paying monthly, instead of just the same text, like, thank you for taking care of your payment, thank you for taking care of your payment. Now we're saying, hey, ChatGPT, ZappyChat, the backend, OpenAI, create a response. And so it could be different. All right. Hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks, everybody, and I will talk to you guys later.